in order to raise more property tax revenue. I thought you were applauding something I said. I'm bummed now. Okay. Exempt property to the tune of about $20,000 in the case of our nursery school. Fortunately, Bloomfield has a town council that can see the bigger picture, including the broader implications of such a change in tax policy. They can see a church that has been a very good Bloomfield citizen for almost 300 years, a nursery school, one of only a few in the region that's NIAC accredited, that has been an outreach mission to the community for almost 60 years, and has prepared children of this town this town does not have the capacity to serve. Making it easier on the public schools when they arrive there. With its break-even budget, it is not a moneymaker for the church. The property tax would put the nursery school out of business. Because over 90% of the families served are at income levels that qualify for subsidies, they could not absorb the increase in tuition this property tax would require. We understand that we have to pay to play, meaning we have to hire legal representation to file in Superior Court. We have engaged David Barham and are finding the money to cover this because we feel strongly the benefits of no tax far outweigh the property tax in making for a better Bloomfield. As maybe the only nursery school currently in this position of having to litigate, we want to wage the fight for all of the others too. If we lose, Bloomfield will also lose the property tax because the nursery school could not afford to continue. But the children would be the biggest losers. In the most timely and least costly. I know I just went off after that. Was it something I said that I got to? Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Gochin, representing the First Congregational Church in Bloomfield as well. I'm here to speak on behalf of the First Congregational Church in Bloomfield regarding the town's new policy of aggressively taxing charitable organizations. Whether or not the town council community by providing services and filling the needs of the town's residents, often servicing those who are most vulnerable or providing services that the town does not provide. Charitable organizations help the town become attractive to businesses and residents by offering opportunities. Foolish in their endeavor to tax these organizations. Charitable organizations typically operate on a shoestring. Strain on their budgets and may cause them to reduce services to those who depend on them. The town has decided to tax the First Congregational Church in Bloomfield's nursery school, also known as the Child Development Center. This outreach mission of our church has been in existence for 58 years and has served generations of the town's children. We are not a daycare, but are a pre-kindergarten school accredited by the National Association for the Education of Young Children. Most of the children who attend our school attend under the School Readiness Program, a program whose funds are administered by the town and designs to teach children basic skills needed to succeed upon entering the town's public school system. Of the 33 children in this program attending our school, 14 are from families with income less than 50% of the state median income, and other 15 are from families with income less than 75% of the state median income. Families who without this aid would not be able to give their children the opportunity to start kindergarten on equal footing with their peers. 94% of all the students attending our various programs are from Bloomfield, so what you have done impacts mostly Bloomfield families. The town budget indicates the town grant list has grown by 4.26% or $3,280,000. Normally the town should be pleased that this has attracted new businesses or had new homes built. I don't think there is any reason for the town to be happy with the growth this year. There is a list of 17 charitable organizations that have been assessed this year. Granted, there are some aspects of these organizations that should have been taxed, but there are others where the assessment process has been overly aggressive. Our church's assessment alone represents almost 15% of this increase, $486,790 out of the $3.28 million increase. We alone represent 15% of the increase on the grant list, and there are 16 other charitable organizations who are also part of the growth in this grant list. Usually announcing growth in the grant list is something the town can feel good about. However, this is not a proud moment for the town. I mentioned that charitable organizations operate on a shoestring, and our church is no different. The tuition paid on the school readiness program is limited, and the families pay on a sliding scale based on their income. Since almost all the children attending our school are on this program, and there is little, if any, room to generate income to cover the taxes on a $487,000 assessment. Therefore, if we don't prevail in our appeal to the Superior Court, it is very possible that we have no option other than to close the school after 58 years of serving the community. Will other nursery schools in this town be able to help those most financially vulnerable families that we serve? I hope so, for the sake of the children. If we close the school, 20 people will lose their jobs. Five of the teachers are Bloomfield residents. Remember, you were hired, elected, or appointed to serve the residents of Bloomfield. It doesn't seem like you've done so in this instance. As I said before, penny wise and pounds foolish, because this is a no-win situation. If we win our appeal, the town doesn't receive our taxes. If we lose our appeal, the town still won't receive our taxes, and we'll lose so much more due to the school's closure. And it is unfortunate that you leave us no recourse other than to sue the town, whose very origin was the establishment of our church 280 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen Hosart.
My name is Maureen Hosart. I live at 16 Newbern Drive in Bloomfield. This is a very grassroots visual aid. I'm sorry. There were 9 names listed on the town council, and I guess there's 10 of you. I apologize. I'm here to talk about the sign that was posted on the corner of Newbern Drive and Loeffler Road. Last week, I think I sent all of you an email, and I'm voicing my concerns and many of my neighbors, who I know have already contacted some people in the town hall and some of the people in the police department. People have been concerned about the sight line of this giant sign that was posted on Milburn Drive on the corner there that says, "Welcome to Bloomfield." What I'm trying to depict here is that the gauntlet, which is Loeffler Road, is fed by Simsbury Road, both east and west. If you're coming from Simsbury, you're passing a sign at Penwood Park that says Bloomfield Town Line. You're passing a sign on Pent Road on the side, that white one that says "Welcome to Bloomfield." Just past Wade, you're passing a sign that tells you West Hartford is straight ahead and Bloomfield is to the left. And then if you make the left onto Loeffler, you see the sign that says Route East 178, Bloomfield. If you're going west, you've got a sign that says Bloomfield Simsbury, make a right, and again, you've got that. Where that green dot is on the page, this is where that sign is. And the sign that I'm talking about is the sign that's at the bottom of the thing I'm giving you. And just in terms of size, I'm 5'5", and I'm standing next to that sign, and I look small, which is rather nice, but this is not the kind of sign we want in our residential area. If you know that area at all, and you can probably do because it really is a gauntlet, once you turn off of Simsbury Road, that whole stretch of Loeffler Road through the wetlands area, past Newbern Drive, past Doncaster, and even past the fields where Ronnie Wade farms on the left, it's beautiful, it's natural. There's a few houses there, but it's a beautiful, natural environment that I think Bloomfield should really want to keep. There's nothing to be gained by posting yet one more sign on that corner. People have visual issues pulling out. I know the sign has already been moved once. Apparently I'm a bold driver because I just pull right out there. But there are a lot of elderly people in the area, and they're much less timid about pulling out to kind of see around the sign. I would like to see the sign removed. I don't think it's not adding anything to our community. As a matter of fact, it's detracting from our community. This is the kind of thing that belongs in an industrial area. Put it up on Day Hill Road. Put it up, where they have big trucks. This thing is bigger than a lot of the state signs that I included in my email to all of you. I would ask that you all really give this serious consideration, because I'm voicing this for a number of people in the neighborhood. This was all the talk of Milburn Drive, Burnwood Drive, and some people at Doncaster last week. And we could certainly do without cluttering up a natural environment. Does anybody have any questions about my little blue collar? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point well made.
Good evening, my name is Patrine Davis and my address is 84 Inglewood Avenue, Bloomfield. I'm here to speak about the current state of our Bloomfield school system. Traditionally, public schools were considered integral to the success of democracy and economic participation, which is an antidote to poverty. Today, however, it may be said that our current levels of poverty may be due to the low quality of our schools. One of the obstacles standing in the way of educational equity is the inability to fund the proper number of qualified teachers and tutors to improve performance. There is no reason why our schools cannot be the high-performing institutions we desire. Our town pays over $42 million for education. That comprises 47% of the entire town budget. This should be a good enough reason to want to know how your schools are performing. The Board of Education projected enrollment for 2018-2019 school year is 2,157 students, of which 542 students are attending two magnet schools, and the balance of 1,615 students are attending the other 5 public schools. The Board of Ed has projected an amount of $2,057,310 for two magnet schools, GEMS and WEMS. They have also projected $3,534,641 in tuition for the out-of-district magnet schools and special education outplacement. That leaves over $36.5 million for students at the 5 public schools. That's an amount of $22,644 per student, which exceeds the 2017 per capita student expenditure in Connecticut of $16,592. That's by 36%. With this amount of capital, shouldn't our children be receiving the high-quality education they deserve? What's wrong with this picture? The current education budget does not provide the necessary number of certified teachers and resources needed. We could hire 3 to 4 teachers and tutors or 8 instructional assistants for the cost of 1 staff member at the Board of Ed central office. We do not believe that every student should be expected to go on to a 4-year college, but they should be able to meet math and reading level skills. They should also receive adequate preparation for entering the workforce, developing business and personal skills needed to live a productive life. We need to get our students on track. We need them to be meeting grade level goals and beyond. Currently, only 15% of our high school students, that's Bloomfield High School, is meeting the goal in math, and 45% meeting literacy goal. Therefore, a group of committed and active parents of Bloomfield students is hereby requesting an audit of the Bloomfield School District. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Karen Rodolfo. I'm at 17 Cottage Street in Manchester. My daughter attends First Congregational Church. I was a resident of Bloomfield from the time I was born until I was 22 years old. My mother still resides in Bloomfield over 40 years. First Congregational is a great program. She said it's one of the best she's ever seen. She was a kindergarten teacher for over 35 years. However, she's physically incapable of chasing around a 4-year-old. We're on most of us there are on a sliding scale. We are low-income families. I make a couple thousand too much for care for kids. Daycare is too expensive. It's very hard for me. And she's getting a great jump start education. They are NIAC accredited, which is very, very hard to get. And I just don't see how they could tax a nonprofit. They don't make any profit at all. You know, there's nothing left over, so ultimately you would be taxing low-income families. My daughter would have nowhere to go. There's not that many preschools out there, especially ones that can get her such a great education. I went to First Congregational Church as a preschooler, and I ended up graduating second in my class, which was, you know, a lot of hard work, but who's to say it wasn't the great jump start I got? So I'm just asking you to please reconsider. You know, I just don't have anywhere else for her to go. I mean, this would be a great disservice to the kids, and it's a lot of them that go there and they go to these churches, and I mean, it's just really nowhere else for them to go to get that good jump start. You know, the daycares, they cost so much, and they're just not as great as I think the churches are. They're smaller class sizes. They're just doing a really great job. So I'm just asking you to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ursula Deng. I live at 11 Pent Road in Bloomfield. I just wanted to talk on behalf of the First Congregational Church Nursery School for a few minutes. My children are all alumni of the nursery school. I have their two at UConn now, and one is going to be a senior in high school. They had a phenomenal start to their education at the nursery school. There are a lot of these really big, large-scale corporate nursery schools out there where you drop off your kid and you really feel like they're just a number. First Congregational Nursery School is one of those places where you feel like you're at home. You feel like you're part of a community. Some of the most wonderful memories I have about this nursery school is the kids going on their field trips. They would go on the field trip to the fire department, which was right next door, or across the street to the library, or they would go over to Filey Park. Really, it is such a part of our community, and you feel like as a parent, your whole family, you feel like you're a part of the community in this nursery school. It is one of the sweetest places for children to get their start to an education, and they get a phenomenal start to their education. All the kindergarten teachers really rave about how well prepared the kids are when they come out of First Congregational Church Nursery School. I just wanted to say, you know, being a part of the community was so important, and it really encouraged me to bring my children to the Bloomfield schools. They had a great start at the elementary schools here. What else did I want to say? They were very well prepared, and I just hope, the connection that the nursery school has with the Alliance for Bloomfield's Children really encouraged me to be involved and active in the community, as well as many other parents, and I made so many friends through these organizations, and just encourage people to be, parents to be involved in the school systems and in the community and supporting their children. So it was just such a great start, and I hope that this is something that you'll take into account, how this really benefits the community in so many different ways and benefits families as well as the children. Thank you.
So I'd like to thank everyone that has spoken and assure you again that this council didn't know. And it's not the policy of this council to tax true nonprofits. We believe that our churches serve our community in ways that government cannot, and in ways that the Board of Education cannot. So we value our churches. We value our true nonprofits. We, the leadership of the council, the deputy mayor and myself, have met with First Congregational on their request, as well as our farms on their request. And after we had those conversations, we came back and we met with the town manager and the attorneys involved. And we have spoken. We believe that there is a swift resolution to this situation that will benefit our nonprofits and our town, and also show the importance of the work that you do. Now, it's extremely important that we get that out there and that we make that clear. Bloomfield, it's not our policy. It's not our policy. We appreciate everything you do, and we have to be able to show that in tangible ways. So, once again, we have met, and I do believe if you have not yet heard from, maybe your counsel have, meaning your legal counsel, maybe they have, and if they haven't, they should hear in short order. Councilor Mann.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to consider placing a new item on the agenda for the purpose of discussing this issue tonight, so that we can perhaps have some clarity for the citizens.
I second that.
Madam Chair, I tried to place this on the agenda twice, and I'll read it again, asking to be placed on the agenda. That it is not the policy of the Bloomfield Town Council to tax churches, schools, and charitable organizations. A simple statement, and I think that will help with a long-term settlement of this, but I want to make it clear how the council feels. And I put that on the agenda.
I second and support that.
Second.
We need
vote. Oh, you had the motion, the original
So
motion.
the motion was to add it to the agenda.
Yeah,
So
that came from-
can we take action on adding that item to the agenda?
And that came initially from Councilman Mann.
And-
second by Councilman
Yes.
McCleary.
Right, so all in favor of adding this item to the agenda?
Aye.
aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The aye, it's carried. Now we can take up your motion. Discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can I have a second, please? I would like to put a motion on the floor to suspend the taxation of all the churches who are true nonprofit, including the nursery schools for First Congregational Church.
Second. Any discussion?
Point of order.
Yes.
I think we've made a motion to add this to the agenda,
Yes.
which we all agree with. But we seem to be now jumping into this at this point on the agenda, and it seems like it should be under new or old business, not
yes.
citizens' comments.
So can I have a point of order, Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I think the deputy mayor is asking to add another agenda item to the agenda to suspend taxation of all true nonprofits. So this is an additional item.
That's another item to the
To be
agenda?
added to the agenda, which has been it's been proposed and seconded. So I think we should vote on that. Am I correct, Deputy Mayor, in saying that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so we will take care of that under new business.
Madam Mayor, point of order. It's a new item, an additional item to be added to the agenda, if I'm correct, from the Deputy Mayor.
Absolutely.
He wants to add an item to the agenda
Yep.
to suspend taxation of all true nonprofits in the town of Bloomfield.
And then do we pick it up now, or do we pick it
No,
up at the
it's an additional item to,
Yep.
That's what I said.
So-
We're gonna add it.
So could
oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna add it to the agenda. But we're gonna add it and we're gonna take care of it in new business.
When we get here, we're going to discuss it and...
We haven't adopted it as new business. We have to adopt it, place it on the agenda.
I thought we agreed on that.
There's two different items.
Okay.
Councilor Mann proposed one thing.
So the one that we did is fine?
Correct, yes.
So now we need to vote on adding this one?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank
So
you.
we have two new items under new business. Okay.
Any other speakers?
That's it? Okay. Reports from subcommittees, administration and education.
Madam Mayor, I have nothing to report. Admin Education was supposed to meet on the 7th. Due to the annual town budget, that meeting was canceled. The next meeting is June 4th. Thank you.
Finance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Finance Subcommittee met on May 9th instead of its regular meeting time schedule that would have been scheduled for next Monday, May 21st, in Conference Room 5. The subcommittee did three things. We reviewed the April financial report. The projection after 10 months through the end of fiscal year 2017-18 is for favorable operating income variance of $750,000, consisting of approximately $100,000 favorable revenue. This is largely because we have had better money coming in from the tax assessment, more payments and so forth, even though we lost some state money. And approximately $650,000 lower than budgeted expenses, and this has been driven largely by the town's budget freeze due to the uncertainty of state grant payments to municipalities. So that was item one. Item two was the Finance Committee instructed the Finance Director to prepare a draft town policy regarding the management of town reserve funds, focusing on A, what size balances should be held in those reserve funds, and B, when and how the funds can be accessed, including appropriate permissions from town staff and council. And finally, the last thing, which was a relatively short discussion, we continued our discussion of land value taxation. And this is a different way of assessing property taxes, a different way of valuing property. This is something the council is simply looking at as a educational item, and we have several more background papers, and the finance director is working on scheduling a presentation on the state of Connecticut's pilot program, probably at the subcommittee's July 16th meeting. The next meeting of the Finance Committee will be back to its usual time at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, June 18th in Conference Room 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Public safety?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Public Safety Committee met tonight at 6:30 in Conference Room 5. The most pressing discussion that we had was the discussion surrounding a traffic analysis around town. The police department has started collecting data surrounding a number of neighborhoods in town. Over the next several months, he will continue that effort, and once that effort is completed, he will post the data on the town website. Thus, that completes my report from the public safety. We will meet again on June 11th at 6:30 in Conference Room 5. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Committee on Committees?
Madam Mayor, the Committee on Committees has refilled almost 95% of all the positions that were vacant in our boards and commissions. We have one more meeting the next meeting is the 21st, on Monday night, May 21st. We hope to finish off. And for the next committee would be Land Use and Economic Development, which is also mine. We're meeting tomorrow night in Conference Room 5, a rather long agenda, a lot of interesting things to talk about. If you're interested, public, please show up.
Thank you. Old business, discussion and possible action regarding the Board of Education solar farm project. Is there a presentation?
Yes, a representative, see Mr. Guzman.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having us. I'm Bill Guzman, Chief Operations Officer for the school district. With me tonight is Wayne Casper, who is the Director of Facilities for the district, Jeff Pipeling, who's the Director of Business Development for CTEC Solar, and John Miller, who's the Director of Clean Energy Collective. Hopefully, we can give you some insight into the proposal that's in front of you. I just want to mention that this And I know that the town manager gave you a set of minutes going back to 2016, I believe, give you a sense of the history of this project. It was back in 2016 when we first came to the town council to ask them to pass a resolution asking or approving going forward with the two proposals that we had at the time, one for the A-Race high school, the A-Race facility roof and the solar farm behind the Board of Ed facility on 1133 Blue Hills Avenue. As you know, the roof project was completed this past summer, or last summer, and we're and functioning very well, and we're reaping the benefits of solar power on that array. Tonight, we're asking you to approve the lease and the letter of intent that was in your packet, and authorize the superintendent to enter into that agreement. Just so you know, back in 2016, we went to the board attorney to find out if, in fact, the Board of Education on its own could enter into this agreement. And his advice to us was that, no, you should go to the town council and make sure that they have a say in ultimately to approve this project. And back in May of 2016, town council did pass that resolution, in fact. And what we're here tonight to do is to tell you where we are with the development of the lease, where we are with the development of the property. We met this past Tuesday evening with the Conservation Energy Committee, Energy and Environment Committee, and answered their questions regarding the project. And we're here to do that tonight with the members of the town council. So without further ado, I want to invite Wayne Casper to talk a little bit about the specifics of the project for you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Casper. I'm Director of Facilities for the Bloomfield Schools. I'm happy to be here tonight, and I look forward to a fruitful discussion. As Mr. Guzman said, we've been working on this project and proposal since 2016, and it probably goes back before that when I first came up with the idea and started investigating solar power for the schools and town. A little bit of background that Mr. Guzman didn't cover. Following the meeting in May 2016 where we presented to the council, the school district went back out with a request for proposals for both solar projects. In that request for proposal, or in response to that request, 6 firms submitted proposals. A committee of myself, Mr. Guzman, and Mr. Robinson, who is our IT director, reviewed the proposals, invited the 4 firms that we felt best met the qualifications that we had and would best serve the district and town in for interviews. We interviewed all 4 firms, and then the final recommendation was for the A-Race project, we recommended to the Board of Education and the council to award the contract for the Carmen A-Race facility or project to Kingspan Energy. They have since completed their work. That system went live in September of 2017. At the same time, we made the recommendation to both the Board of Education and to award the Board of Ed field project to C-Tech Solar, which is here, located here in Bloomfield, to develop that pending refinancing of the Connecticut Green Bank by the state of Connecticut. Unfortunately, after the A-Raise project was awarded by the, or approved by the Connecticut Green Bank, the state did not fund the Green Bank. Since that time, CTEC Solar took it upon themselves to keep their eyes and ears open and to search out other available avenues for funding the project. Since that time, the state did develop and directed the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to develop what is known as a community solar projects. They went out with an RFP for the community solar projects, and at which time CTEC Solar filed a response to that RFP on behalf of the Bloomfield schools. The Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection awarded 3 projects out of, I believe, 18 that were received. The 3 projects, one of which is the town of Bloomfield and the Board of Ed property. The other 2 are private industries that are looking to develop. Should the council, in its wisdom, approve the lease and the letter of intent, and we move the project forward, we will be the first to develop a community solar project in the state of Connecticut. So all eyes are on Bloomfield right now. The benefits to this project, and a little bit about the project, because it's a community solar project, it benefits more than just the school system in the town through the school system. Part of the requirements of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection in the project is that only 60% of the power generated by the system can be sold or used by the Board of Education. The other 40%, and I have to clarify something I told Jennifer Marchionelli earlier, the other 40% has to go to residents. Cannot be used by businesses. We would be using all of the business, we or the town would be using all of the business benefit. The other 40% has to be sold to residents. During the initial offering, which would take place during the construction of the solar field, the target would be limited to residents within the town of Bloomfield. Of that 40%, half of that, or 20% of the production, has to go to low and moderate income housing in Bloomfield, or at least during the initial sale. After that, if they do not sell off or fulfill all of that 40%, then it can be opened up to neighboring residents in neighboring towns. But the initial offering and advertising and solicitation would be focused strictly in Bloomfield, to Bloomfield residents. To give you a little bit of idea of the potential, from the lease itself, the town and board would receive lease payments of approximately $14,500 per year for the property. On top of that, we would receive what is essentially comes down to almost or approximately 2 cents per kilowatt hour in savings of electricity. And how that works is we would buy our electricity from the Clean Energy Collective at a rate of approximately 14 cents per kilowatt hour. And then we would receive in credits for that same amount of power roughly 16 cents per kilowatt hour from Eversource. So thereby having a reduction in our cost of energy of approximately 2 cents per kilowatt hour. Over the course of a 20-year contract, with the income from the lease on the property, plus the savings of the projected production of the system, we would save the town or reap the town approximately $800,000 over the course of the 20 years. we see this as a benefit in multiple layers. One, we see the reduction in our utility costs, or the town's utility costs, through the purchase of the solar system, or the solar created by the system. And secondly, it enables residents of the town of Bloomfield that can't afford solar panels on their homes or have any means to finance the solar panels on their homes a way of buying solar power at a reduced rate. And in talking with John from the Clean Energy Collective, I confirmed that the financial benefits would mirror that of the Board of Ed or the town with the 2 cents per kilowatt hour, approximate 2 cents per kilowatt hour. So with that, if you have any questions of myself or Jeff Pipeling or John, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Yes, first of all, let me say I'm thrilled that this project is moving forward, and especially as a community solar project, because I think it has a lot more exciting prospects under that guise. I'm glad we might be the first. I do have some questions. I was reading the release, and it looked like it was like almost 13,000 a month. So I thought there was a savings of 275,000 a year. I don't know how you got the 800. It's over the 20 years, right?
It's over the 20 years. The amount I gave you is an approximation, because the amount of the lease payment is tied to the size of the system and the amount the system is able to generate. So it's going to average 13 plus to 14.5.
Per month? Per year? Per year.
Per year.
800 is a long way off, but either way, I'm happy with the 275 because we weren't making anything.
Yeah, well, I'd also want to comment, I'm glad you said that because it reminded me of something. When we came with this, for our due diligence, we knew the town might be interested in wanting to know what other purpose could the property be used for. We had contracted a firm, and I don't have the name of the firm in front of me, but I believe you have the summary of findings of a report that was done on best use of the property. And because of the extensive wetlands on the property, the firm determined a solar farm would be its best use, because we can put it on there without damaging or harming the wetlands capabilities of the property.
And there's also, you mentioned there's potential for taxation on this property coming through, pass through to the town after it's, that's what I got out of the lease too.
Right. Well, the other concern that people would have is, and yes, to answer your question, but the other thing that people are always asking or concerned about is, okay, what happens at the end of 20 years? Well, solar systems and panels today are lasting more than 20 years. So the lease, the way it's written, allows us to extend it in 2 5-year periods, should the town and board want to do that. Because panels are lasting now 25, 30 years or more. The other thing is, once you have the physical structure up there, just like at A-Race, even if panels degrade to the point where they're no longer really producing enough output, you can simply go in and replace the panels and leave the structure, the base structure alone, release the panels, and you have a brand new system, which would generate power for another 20, 25, 30 years. But at the end of the system, should the town as a whole decide, or the council at the whole decide, we don't want to continue with the system, it's done, we've gotten our money out of it that we felt that we should, we've got other ideas for the property, we just say, okay, we're done, remove the system. It is not the town's responsibility to remove the system, it's the owners, because we don't own the system would be owned by the Clean Energy Collective, it's their responsibility to come in and remove it.
I have 2 more short questions, I think. Has the Board of Education approved this lease already? Have they taken action on it?
Yes, it has. Mr. Guzman and I presented to the Finance Subcommittee of the board, I forget what date, it was a few months ago, and then the full board itself, and both the Finance Subcommittee recommended it to the full board, and then the full board voted and approved of it.
Okay, and the final question is, I understand the nature of the lease and so forth, but I want you to assure that the town will not be liable in any way, assume any economic risk from this project?
The only commitment on the town's behalf is that we're guaranteeing to buy the solar for 20 years. That's the only... Huh?
Lease it for 20 years.
Lease the property, but also buy the solar for 20 years.
Yeah,
those are the only commitments.
Yeah, okay.
Councilor Merritt?
Thank you.
I really have a question. You explained why it's taken so long. It was a source of funding that disappeared and reappeared. But I want to congratulate you on finally getting it done. So, how many years has this been?
I was trying to think, it's been at least three since I came up with the idea of solar powers. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Mayor?
Councilor Lorenzo?
Thank you, Wayne. Just a quick question. So you said that 60% of the solar would be used by the Board of Ed, right? I thought when we originally started talking about this plan, we said that there could be up to 5 locations that would get solar.
Yes.
Is that changed? Or?
No.
Okay,
actually, we can actually divide the solar generation purchase up to 10 accounts.
Okay.
In that 60%.
So
as a matter of fact, we're restricted to one account, one of those 10, only maxing at 40%, I believe. Then the rest has to be divided up. So we can arm wrestle over who gets to buy the solar.
Right. Okay. My other question is the farm itself, the solar farm itself. Does it look substantially the same way that it was presented in some of the photographs that we saw?
We actually have a layout, if you want to pass it through real quick.
You may want to mention the two.
It is subdivided into 2 sections.
Okay.
That was done, and I'm going to let Jeff explain that because it's more of a technical aspect in regards to the siting council and that.
Okay.
But he can explain why it was divided.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jeff Pipeling with C-Tech Solar. I'm Director of Business Development. Regarding the system, there were lots of changes over the years in the 3 years that this project was presented to now where we feel like we're shovel ready. One of them being a change in the law of the Connecticut Agricultural Department, actually last year in July, where any project over 2 megawatts or 2 megawatts, which this would qualify, that is located in prime farm soils, which this used to be a hayfield, would be subject to Connecticut Siting Council instead of the local Wetlands Commission here in Bloomfield. After speaking with the town and many different people in the town, including the Wetlands Commission, we decided to split the system into 2 1-megawatt projects to not have the Connecticut Siting Council have jurisdiction over it, which would have killed this project. So that's why we did it, with their full support, actually. Yeah.
Councilor Goff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too am, I think several of us were involved with CEC when this project first came up and have seen it shift over time and are very happy it's finally at the point of being actualized. I just have a couple of follow-ups. I think you mentioned just a minute ago that the one requirement for the town is that we quote buy the solar. Is that 60% or are we the town can only buy 60%. So what are we required to buy?
The town is buying 60% of the power generated, not the solar. The town is not buying any solar system at all.
Well, no, but
it's actually the power generated from the solar. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was yes.
The town is only committing to that 60%. The Clean Energy Collective, it's their job, their responsibility, their task to get the subscribers for the other 40% from either Bloomfield residents. If they can't fill that quota through the Bloomfield residents after a fixed period, then they can go out to other localities and advertise for the purchase of the solar power or the electricity generated from the power. But the Bloomfield Council is only committing to purchasing the 60%.
Right, and I'm sorry, my question, I don't think I'm saying it well. Councilor Mann asked the question, basically what are the risks or liabilities of the town? And it's a lease system, they will take care of it at the end of 20 years and we'll make a decision whether to replace or whatever. So it seems like, you know, it's very clear. And then you made the comment that the one requirement is that we are required to buy the power. And I guess what I'm asking is, it sounded before like we buy 60% of the power, we have to, we auction the other 40%, or they auction it. So what is our requirement here?
Our requirement is only to purchase 60% of the power.
Okay, so that's the only. Okay.
That's our only requirement.
Okay.
To buy 60% of the power for 20 years.
Right. Okay.
One stipulation on this, just so you know, is that you know, if for some reason the town and the Board of Ed decided, hey, we don't want those savings anymore, there's plenty of other towns that would be happy to take that savings. So I don't know why the town would want to say, hey, but I am making that point that we make these type of, we broker these type of deals with many towns, and many towns enter into a 20-year agreement, but if for some reason they decided to back out before the 20 years, CEC and our company would be sure to have another town in line to take that 60%.
No, that's not a question. I was just trying to understand the answer to the question. You mentioned the 2% differential.
2 cents.
2 cents, I'm sorry. 2 cent differential between what you buy the power at and sell it back to Eversource. Is that differential constant over the 20 years?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a fixed rate.
It's a fixed rate, so whatever Eversource is...
Whatever happens with Eversource's rates doesn't apply here. For all of the power that electricity we would be purchasing, we would purchase it at the 14 plus cents per kilowatt hour. Eversource will credit us the 16 plus per kilowatt hour for the 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
And that's fixed. There's no adjustment.
That's a huge forward agreement.
Yes.
One thing to point out about this is, you know, very similar to virtual net metering. This is not the same structure as the Carmen Arache School. That's a PPA.
Right.
PPAs basically only offset a portion of the bill at that site. There is no load here. So what this is a straight credit. So that 16 cent credit goes towards transmission, delivery, everything on the bill, even demand charges. So that's why it's a guaranteed savings, because we're not talking about just covering a portion of the bill and hoping that portion doesn't go up. This is a straight credit. It's a lot safer. When energy consultants get involved and look at this stuff, which I know the town did, or the Board of Education did as well, this is a, you know, you pay $1 for $1.20 in credit. It's that simple, and it gets applied to the whole bill.
Right. So I want to ask a question. Councilor Mann asked the liability question. I want to ask that in a slightly different way that's a little broader, and especially for both of you. When you sat down and looked at this at the end of the day, and you did your sheet of here are the benefits, which are obviously very lengthy. On the other side, you said what are the negatives, what are the risks? So what are the negatives and what are the risks?
I can't tell you one.
For us, as C-Tech Solar, the risk is you not signing the lease and us being out probably about $250,000 at this point.
Oh, you funded this up front.
We've done a lot of funding to make this work. With changes in programs, we had to do a lot of things to certify incentives, to do interconnections, to do engineering, and even with the Trump tax of 30%. That happened back in January. We actually already purchased the panels for Bloomfield, hoping this would all be approved. Our ownership decided to throw down the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that, because if we didn't, these savings would have changed. And we've come so far that to then say, oh, wait, the price of panels changed, now we have to back up. So we've put in a lot of investment as a company ourselves to keep this moving.
So just, what if the finances of solar changed in 5 years from now?
It wouldn't affect this project, because this project is already going to be built under a previous program, actually.
Okay.
So this is under, so I know that, with things going on in the legislature, that's all programs going forward. This is already a program that's approved. So this is a pilot program for community solar, which we had already won the bid for. So the only thing left really is for the town council to approve the lease. Everything else is already fixed and in place.
Great. Thank you very much.
Councilor Clary?
Just one question. You mentioned that 20% of the energy produced by these solar panels will go to low-income residents. Could you talk about the process of advertising to low-income residents?
We're going to have John Miller address that, because their firm is actually the one responsible for doing that.
Okay, and then my question is, do the rates also stay at 2% difference for the low-income residents that are participating in the 20%? Thank you.
So this is John Miller. CTEC Solar is the builder and developer. CEC, Clean Energy Collective, is actually a national company that has been very experienced with community solar. So the reason, and they're actually backing this project and owning it and finding the off-takers. So the reason we contracted them to, or we're partnering with them to do this, is they have the experience in the community solar. We have the experience in building it. So he can talk to you about a little bit about the process on how they find off-takers on the low to moderate income.
Hello, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the board, thank you for having me here. So Clean Energy Collective, we've been around since about 2011. We are the nation's leading community solar provider, and that's a very specific designation. And when I say that, I believe we're the only firm that actually does not just the development and owning, but we actually sell our power. We sell our subscriptions. We have a very large team, direct sales, direct marketing. We have compliance people. We really act as a standard third-party supplier that I'm sure you get 1,000 phone calls from every couple months. But in terms of our selling the power, so we actually have a marketing team and we have a sales team, and they tend to do a lot of direct marketing, whether that's print, media. They also do direct phone calling. They partner with local organizations, so it wouldn't be uncommon once this kicks off to maybe see them at a chamber event or some sort of event in the area to put this project out there. And then in terms of LMI, we a very similar tact in terms of marketing to those. We talk to the community, we talk to members of the board. If there is a specific group for LMI, we will talk to them as well, let them know that this product is out there, and look to fill it that way.
Just to follow up, so you said you do direct sales, direct marketing, and direct phone calls. What I worry about is this is an excellent program, but with seniors, we have a lot of seniors in town. They're inundated with just different marketing calls about, oh, switch over to this energy and switch over to this. So how could we reassure our seniors or just the residents of Bloomfield that this is a program that is legitimate, that the council, if we decide to move forward with, which I hope we do, endorse this program? Do you team up with the mayor or any member of council to try to do some marketing around endorsing this program?
So with our commitment to the exclusive period of marketing directly in Bloomfield, which is a period of, I believe, 45 days, our plan is to work directly with you. We're going to look towards you. You guys are obviously the experts here. We'll be getting you in touch directly with our sales and marketing folks. Mike Malone is our head of sales, and I've spoken to him about this in great detail, and he's obviously reviewed and approved the fact that we have the 45 days of exclusive marketing here. So we'll definitely put you guys directly in touch with them. Obviously, it makes the most sense to work with you guys to sell this power. You guys are most local here, and also it makes our jobs a little easier.
All right, Madam Mayor, one more follow-up, if you don't, okay, thank you. So the 40%, the 60% that the town is obligated to purchase, what if we have a demand of over 20% for the low income and the town doesn't use the whole 60%? Could we reallocate some of that 60% to the low income residents of Bloomfield?
So the school has been very adamant about taking that 60%, so you're going to have it out with them. But in terms of the LMI component, now you got part of what makes LMI very unique is also the financing structures behind LMI customers. That's why it's very difficult. We find that since we provide community solar directly, we do all of our financing in-house, that we're able to offer a product that most traditional banks or financiers can't offer, where we can sell to LMI. A lot of people can't at all. So there is an amount where you can only sell up to that just based on financing, and I believe 20% is a good number, but that's not to say we might alter our offering in the future to try to focus more on LMI.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I just want to follow up to Councilman McClary's question. So the 60%, is that just for school use? Is that for government buildings?
So that requirement is set forth by DEEP, and that is actually 60% to CNI, commercial industrial customers, and they determine everything that's not a home or a resident is a CNI customer. So that's where that comes from, and we actually had Bill and Wayne on the phone with DEEP confirming this with us several months ago, confirming that, yeah, you're a school district, but you're still CNI.
Any questions on this side? I have it. Councilor Marshall-Neely?
Thank you so much. First, I want to say thank you for your presentation. Wayne, Mr. Casper, you were very detailed and specific, and I think this is a great opportunity for the town of Bloomfield to be trailblazers in this program. I think that it would behoove the council to think about it and kind of vote this in, because being the first and thinking about the community, it's only great for what we want to do. And right now we're being transparent. With regard to the seniors who may not trust marketing people who are knocking on their door or trying to contact them, let's just say that some of the seniors decided they wanted to go forward with it and they had concerns. I know that their first call is going to be to the council. So who would they contact if they had concerns regarding solar that's going on their property?
It's not going on their property.
I can contact me, you can contact Wayne, the school district.
Sorry. As a point of contact, they could contact me, they can contact Wayne in terms of the school district. We would, if in fact need be, to contact either John or Jeff for specific questions that they may have that are beyond our range. But certainly we're open to answer any questions that come up. So if questions do come to the town council, to the town manager, feel free to use my name, use Wayne's name as an initial contact for them, and then we can guide them, depending on what their question is, to the appropriate office. Thank you.
Councilor Mann?
The town has been very successful in working with its residents to get the number of home energy audits to be the highest percentage in the state. A lot of that's been done by the assistance of the Conservation Energy Environment Committee, who I think would be useful for you to work with to help you use the techniques that they've used before to reach out to people. And obviously it's going to be, it's a difficult process, but you can need the help, all help you can get, and I think they'd be a good agency to serve in that purpose. My other question I had was picking up on the previous question. What cost is it to the homeowner to enroll in this program, and what obligations, therefore, are added to their monthly bill or confusion or whatever?
I'll let John address the specifics, but there is no upfront cost to enroll in the system or in the program. It's they would sign up to buy the power from the Clean Energy Collective and then receive the credit back on their bill. So they would see a charge from Clean Energy Collective for the amount of solar power that they've signed up for, and then solar generated electricity they've signed up for, and then they would see a credit for that same amount of power.
Good. I'm glad that got on the record, And probably somewhere along the way, we need to educate people as to how to read those bills.
Yes.
It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Marshall-Miller, were you first? You have another question? Oh, Councilor McCleary?
You mentioned the commercial industry business.
Yes.
So that means, any commercial business in town could go after the 60%. Would the town of Bloomfield have preference first for
Yes.
our schools?
We get first preference on
Okay, and
that.
what's our timeline to ensure that, could we use up all the 60%, or does each...
The Board of Ed alone can use up all of that 60%, and that's not even counting A-race.
Okay.
I mean, I could use all of that 60% just amongst probably 3 of my buildings. Or I shouldn't say my buildings, our buildings. I think of them as mine because I worry over them all the time, but the town, just in 3 of the schools, we would use up 60% of it. And that was why my argument, as John alluded to, I got on the phone with Deep saying I want more than 60%, and they wouldn't agree to that.
Just one follow-up, just one. So we're providing this, clean energy to the residents, and I guess this may not be a question for you, this may be a question for the vendors. Going back to Councilman Mann's comment of working with the Energy Committee, is there opportunity for you all to help residents with energy efficient light bulbs so that the amount of energy that they're using is limited and then it could go to more people could benefit from it? So is that an opportunity to do some community relations and provide some energy efficient light bulbs?
I can answer that. That's really not their bailiwick. That's really not their avenue. That they would want to probably, there is a program through Eversource that would do that service.
Councilor Marshall-Miller?
In the event that you have a resident who goes into the agreement and gets the solar panel, they're in their home for an additional...
Now, let me clarify. They're not getting any solar panels. They're just buying the power.
Okay, they buy the power.
Yes.
They buy the power. And they're in their home for an additional 5 or 6 years, and then they decide that they're going to sell their home. What happens?
There are clauses in the customer contract that allow for things like that. If they move, it's just a notification period. And then we go ahead and we just reallocate that capacity to a new customer. They're not going to get any sort of penalty for moving.
One thing to explain is that these do not have to be homeowners. This is what's so unique about this, is they can be renters. The residential meters all have to do with meters, okay? Not owning a home, not having a perfect site for solar. They can be in an apartment as long as they have a meter. That's what makes this so unique. And you know that people change, statuses all the time. So people are hard on their luck, and maybe they, move out of that apartment within 6 months. Well, that's okay. They got savings for that 6 months, and they're more than willing, CEC is more than willing to find another off-taker. Most of the time what happens here is there's many people waiting to become one of those off-takers.
Councilor Mann?
Jeff, net metering solar installation used to require a home energy audit, did it not? Mm-hmm. Is this going to require one?
Still requires a home energy audit if you do solar on your own home.
But not in this situation?
Not in this situation. This is like buying shares in a solar farm. It's not on your site. And the best thing that I could say when I talk to people about this is if you had a bill come in the mail and it said, check here, check this box to buy solar power cheaper from 1133 Blue Hills Avenue, and that's all you had to do, that's essentially what this is. Yeah. Except that they get, what's neat is they do get a computer monitoring software that shows them almost like they had a solar system, but they don't, but they get to see what their portion of the system is producing and what they're saving.
Well, thank you for that clarification. Sure. And the question that was asked earlier about helping homeowners to reduce their energy loads can still be accomplished through the CEC and their vendors. So we can, that's the good reason to have a connection. Thank you.
Is there a motion on the floor?
I move that we approve this project.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. Madam Chair.
Those opposed? Mr. Guzman?
Point of clarification, there was a resolution that came in the town manager's email to you. I was wondering if you could,
That's what I said.
for the record, pass that resolution.
Says the town, can I read it? Says the town council approves the land lease option and lease agreement, solar farm, and letter of intent regarding solar energy production and utility credits between the Bloomfield Public Schools and the Clean Energy Collective as reviewed and recommended for execution by Shipman and Goodwin, Board of Education attorneys, and authorizes the superintendent to execute the agreement on its behalf.
I accept that amendment.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Any opposed? No abstentions? So be it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You should redo that for people present.
Do we have to go out of order?
Go ahead.
I think this is going to be so quick. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be real quick.
As long as we
It's
get
going,
what
yep,
the-
it's going to be real quick.
The two of them that...
Real quick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consider item 1718-61, consider and take action regarding approval of applications for the Neighborhood Assistance Act program. Following the public hearing, we had the public hearing earlier, and there were no comments.
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussions? No discussions? No discussions?
Well, I think
One discussion?
I think this is a useful program. My understanding of what I've read is it allows some of our Bloomfield businesses to participate in certain local projects that help benefit young people, schools, and buildings and so forth, where they can donate money and take a somewhat larger deduction, so that it's truly a benefit that the town doesn't necessarily have to kick in. So I support this.
Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor of acting on this motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 1718-62, consider and take action regarding tax refunds.
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So be it. So 1718-63, I'm going to ask the town manager to speak to that.
Basically, we've received a comment, council members and mayor and deputy mayor, from some of the attorneys that are involved in this particular item, and I would request that it be tabled at this time until the next council meeting on the 29th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So be it. Okay, so I'm assuming it would be 1718-64, right? And that is consider and take action on the motion that Councilor Merritt made.
Yes, and I would like to point out the language is important because churches, schools, and charitable organizations are not all nonprofits.
Correct.
And I want to point out that nonprofits are a rather major source of our tax revenue, so we don't want to not tax. You eliminate Doncaster completely and Seabury, and that would be millions and millions of dollars off of our tax revenue. And they can fully afford to pay what they're paying. They may have some things that aren't, but so that's why I use that language. And I was proposing that we vote on this, and it is not the policy of the Bloomfield Town Council to tax churches, schools, and charitable organizations. And I would emphasize the fact that it isn't declaring a policy, it's just saying it is not our policy to do that. And I would ask that we discuss this or put it up for a vote or deal with it.
So the motion's on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second. Discussion?
Any discussions? Councilor Goff.
Yeah, I largely am in favor of this motion. And I agree with you, it is not a policy of what we do, it's a policy of what we don't do. So by its nature being general, I largely agree with it. But sort of to your point about the being very careful about the language of nonprofits, what I am concerned with is that by just stating organizations such as churches, our schools, that it could be interpreted a little too broadly. We've already seen, we heard a month and a half ago, I think, from one of the other churches involved in this, and one of the points of contention that I think none of us disagree with was that church had a credit union. The credit union, I think we all agree, should be taxed. So I just want to, I would either like a little more clarity on the language, or because I know it's hard. You're trying to say just generally what our principle is, and I agree with that. But I worry that by stating it too broadly, we'll have a problem.
Can I respond to that? We're not passing a law, we're setting a policy. It's a general thing, and it doesn't keep somebody from, the assessor from obviously dealing with specific situations which are not religious uses, and that's why I said it's the town council. It's not our policy. If under the law there are certain things he has to do that he doesn't have discretion on, obviously he'd do it. I'm just saying that we're having our say here, and so if we were passing a law, it would go on and on and on, and it's not our business to do that anyway. So to be specific, you start having to define what a school is, what a church is, and so on. So it's intended to be a policy intent rather than something specific.
Councilor Marshall-Neely?
I want to add to that there are some non-profit, faith-based organizations in town that just simply have property and they're paying taxes on that property. And I feel as though that should be an exemption, or they should get some type of abatement, because it's only property that nonprofit church has, and they're not making any money on it. They're not utilizing it for pay-for-profit anything. And so when we think about how we want to craft the wording for this, and it's only the property is just sitting there, and we want to craft a wording to include or incorporate those nonprofits that just have land that's just sitting there.
Councilor McClure. I'm sorry, are you finished?
No, I was going to ask Councilman Merritt, what would he do differently with wording of his statement?
So,
If we start parsing words and trying to pass a law, we'll never get this done, ever. And I just think we need to keep it general, and that's why I asked that we not get specific.
okay, thank you. Councilor McCleary.
I would just propose a friendly amendment that we just, we all are against, the taxation of community organizations that provide nonprofits, the churches, and that provide an essential need to our residents. I would just simply just make a friendly amendment to Councilman Merritt's motion to just get legal advice from our attorney to crafting, because we're getting into the weeds of definitions, and as a council, we want to be very careful moving forward. So I would just add, if he would accept it, that we get a friendly amendment to our, a friendly amendment to get legal advice from our town attorney, and then at the next council meeting, maybe if it's okay, to place on the agenda, so it's not as a rush decision.
Madam Mayor, I second that amendment by Councilman McCleary. I think we need to, before we pass anything, have a discussion, and I think this will be a perfect opportunity to send it to Admin and Education, where we could have a discussion with the town attorney.
That's fine, and I move that we refer it to committee. I guess that would be the right thing to do.
We're still debating the other motion.
Yeah, we have to.
So we have to get the other.
And I think she's second. But
I was just going to suggest, with regard to the other motion, that it seems to me that these could be combined into just one. I don't know that we need a separate agenda item and motion for this. I think that we can make it into one. Because if we're going to if we're going to refer it to committee to begin with to get the proper language, then we could also include a suspension of any taxation that is involved at that time.
Councilor McCleary?
Madam Mayor, I agree, but let's just vote on this item, and then maybe we could just table the second item, or just refer that also to the committee to be added, and then let the chairperson of the admin and administration determine how it should be structured. That would just be my recommendation.
Councilor Mann?
Yes, I think I second one of those motions, the first one, Joe's motion, just for discussion purposes, and I think the discussion has borne out that the policy implications that Councilman Merritt had presented are good in terms of providing a directive that the town council has, but I'm not sure it gets to the issue at hand for those. It doesn't solve anything necessarily, getting into the weeds or getting into the actual process. It just states where we're coming from, which we've tried to state a number of times. So I'm assuming that the solution is somewhere in the revised motion where we can make a policy and then add to it in committee and discussions afterward. We can't do that tonight.
I would agree, and I think what we don't want to do is add further confusion. We don't want to leave it so broad that it creates a bigger problem, and we don't want to narrow it so much that it creates a bigger problem. So I do believe that the prudent thing to do is to be able to have further discussion in subcommittee, consult our attorney, and make sure that the council is doing what's in the best interest of our neighbors, our residents, and our town. So I am totally in favor of the amended, right, because we submitted the motion, of the amended motion. So can we vote on the amended motion?
It's only not amended, it's actually
The friendly, was it
referred
friendly?
to committee.
Right, so that was the friendly amendment.
Amendment added
That's
to,
not an amendment, that's a tabling it to the committee.
so that's the original. Whether it's,
So, okay, so we're going to refer this to admin and education? Okay. So, item number 1718-65.
Do we need to vote?
Sorry. I thought we already voted.
no.
Okay, so all in favor of referring item 1718-64 to admin and education?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Nobody's abstaining. 1718-65, can I get a motion on that one?
Madam Mayor, I move that we also refer that to the Admin and Education Committee with probably the intent of combining it with the earlier policy statement.
Is there a second? I second that. Is there any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Report from the town manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. Just wanted to thank everybody that attended our annual town and budget meeting a week ago. Thank you for all of the comments that were made and suggestions, and as you are aware, the town council voted to approve that budget, and that included a small taxing decrease going forward for the fiscal year beginning July 1st through June 30th of 2019. I'd also like to remind council members that the Human Services Facility groundbreaking activity is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon at 4:30 at the site. Also a reminder on Celebrate Bloomfield. We've got a whole series of events going on the very end of May and June 1st and 2nd, culminating with the mayor's first dinner, dance, ball, which I hope everybody would be interested in attending. Tickets are available through the town manager's office and through other different locations. And lastly, I'd like to just remind everybody that there are opportunities to donate to the Philly Park project. The Philly Park Committee is actively soliciting donations for pavers and other specific items that residents and businesses might be interested in contributing to. That completes my report.
Thank you. So just to add to the town manager, the mayor's fundraising ball is Saturday, June 2nd, and the cost is $50 per person or $90 for a couple. I have been asked why are we having a fundraiser, and this fundraiser, all the proceeds will go to social services and youth services. We have an amazing sponsor, or a couple of sponsors, that is sponsoring this event, so all the monies raised will go towards these services to help our town bloom and be better. I also wanted just to give some broad strokes on some projects that we're looking at, forming relationships with the University of Hartford, forming relationships with Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, who will actually be at our farms on June 13th. So it will be great for us to be able to go out there and hear some of their plans. There's a lot of things that we, and I say we, the leadership of the council, have been engaged in with the support and help of the town manager and the town manager's office that will help our youth in the town of Bloomfield, that will help young adults to better themselves so that they can be competitive in their future and successful. So there's going to be a lot of great things coming in the near future. So we're excited. Bloomfield is doing some great things, and that's something to be excited about. So please stay tuned. That's it. So we are going, our financial reports.
Yes, I believe Councilman Goff gave kind of an overview of what was presented at the Finance Subcommittee meeting from our Finance Director, Jim Wren. I think that he's prepared to answer any questions, or I will, either one of us, if there are any from council members. Or
Okay. We're going to the approval of minutes. Our special meeting on Monday, May 7th was our town budget meeting.
Can I move approval?
Second.
Discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? No abstentions. I know that the town manager did say thank you to all that came out. I just wanted to add to this. This budget process was very intense. We sat through hours on top of hours of information, and the town departments were amazing, presenting to us the information we needed and answering questions upon top of questions. And at our last budget meeting, the budget was referred by a 2-to-1, by a vote of 6 to 2. And by the time we got to our budget hearing, one of the ones that voted against it actually voted for it. So that means we did a great job. We did have 2 minor abstentions, but that's okay too. Monday, April 23rd, Town Council meeting, approval of those minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any second?
You have to second before.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussions or revisions?
Yeah, I do, Madam Mayor. I believe there's a discussion in there about the DPW yard improvements, and I was quoted as saying that something about it being futuristic. The question I asked was, would the renovations changes proposed be suitable for the future? How far into the future? Is it just 5 or 10 years, 20 years? It was not meant to be futuristic in terms of the Jetsons or anything like that. I want to make it clear that the Director of Public Works indicated that it was for at least the next 20 years. He did put a timeline on that, so it was not just to meet immediate needs. Thank you.
It was futuristic.
Any other corrections? So can I have a motion to approve the minutes with corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Monday, March...
Madam Mayor,
I'm sorry,
I'll have to abstain. I wasn't present at that.
2 abstentions, Councilor Goff and Councilor DiLorenzo. Monday, March 12th, Town Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Any abstentions? Motion carries. At this time, we'll have councilor comments. We'll start with Councilor Marshall Neely.
Thank you so much. I want to say congratulations to the Mr. Wayne Casper and the presentation that we saw tonight. That was actually very informative, and I'm so happy that Bloomfield is actually getting on board with that. I wanted to respond to the signage on the Loeffler Milburn corner, because although the mayor said that we had 2 minor abstentions, the abstentions, in my opinion, for the budget meeting was not minor. The reason I abstained was because I went back and reviewed this, and I don't agree with these signages. And this thing is huge, and it is in my neighborhood. So I agree with the resident who said that she would like to have this removed, because I think it's inappropriate on that corner, and we have enough signages in that area. I just want to go on record and say that I agree with her. I also would like to ask this question with regard to the statement that said, "We, the leadership of the council," because I don't feel as though the council is doing enough to fully lead. I think the council is being led by 2 or 3 people, and the inclusivity is not happening. I'm going on record with that, because that is in fact what is happening. And also, with regard to the mayor's ball, we ran for council as a slate, and I felt as though it should be the council's ball, not the mayor's ball. It should be a ball that's presented by the town council. We all have the same amount of authority as far as voting, and this is not a strong mayor town. It's a town council run town, but it just doesn't seem as though that's what's going on in this town. And so I sit back and I watch things, and I can't believe that some of the things that are going on are actually going on. And so I am closing with my council comments by saying we still don't have that unique bonded group that we looked like we had when we ran for office, and it looks like only about 3 people are doing whatever they want to do and excluding others from the process of getting things done. And when I ask questions about the nonprofits, and I want a response and I don't get a response, and then I learn about something at the council meeting, I feel as though we are still not connected the way we should be. And I know that some folks are going to say you should wait until after the meeting to say this, but I need to go on record and say it, because we're full disclosure, we're really not the transparent group that we thought we wanted to be. And with that, I end my comments.
Councilor Marriott?
Hard act to follow, but anyway, I want to thank everybody that came tonight from my church. I know it's kind of the motion that was put out to committee sounds like it's like kissing your sister sometimes. We do things, but it is better to have it looked over, and I think you got a sense of the council of how we all feel. So to the degree that the town council has a say, and we do obviously have a say in taxation of churches and charitable organizations, that we're keeping that moving right along, and thank you very much for showing up, and I think we're going to get good results. So thank you for coming.
Councilor McClary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I too, since it's a matter of we approve the minutes from our special meeting, And it's a matter of public record that I did abstain from voting on the budget. Just to know, I was not at the last council deliberation where the agreement of moving the budget along happened because I was on vacation. However, I do want to mention that I decided to abstain from the budget. Not that I was opposed of the budget. It was just simply at the town meeting, sitting there listening to the same constituents who came before us with the church. And one unique thing stood out to me by the finance director for the church, who said that 15% of the $3.28 million in the increase in the grand list was attributed to the tax of their church, approximately $450,000. And I heard the passionate plea from the parent who said she was on a sliding scale. And I think my abstention to the budget is no different from when we were going through the budget, not the budget process, we were going through the process for 330 Park when the finance committee voted to move the project along, and then some residents came to the town and spoke during public comment, and the folks who voted to move the project along, and the finance committee decided to put the project on hold. So my vote, my abstention to the budget was simply because my belief and religious belief, I could not justify moving that budget forward with the taxation of churches and nonprofits. I know you may say that, oh, we have a reserve for $3 million set aside for from the grand list, but it's still printable. It's still printable. The assumption of potentially taxing the nonprofits and churches was just concerning to me, and I wanted to just abstain. Not that the budget isn't a good budget. Like I said in the messenger, it represents the elements of the budget represents the core values of this council for transparency, effectiveness, efficiency, but I just could not vote yea or nay, so I abstained because of the forecast or the potential taxation of churches and including them in the grand list. So I just wanted to go on record with that. Secondly, I struggle with, what to say because, most things we want to be said, it's not for public consumption, and I'm trying to move and be the team player, like we ran with council. But I think there's some actions by certain members to exclude and then make it seem like certain members of this council as troublemakers and we don't want to be included in making this a better town. If we didn't want to be included in making this a better town, we wouldn't be here. We ran because we all believed in core elements of making Bloomfield better. And I would just hope that moving forward, when questions are asked, and there's a number of issues where I know the answer to it, but then if I propose a question via email, then it's silence. There's no answer. But I know the answer to it, but I touched on the question that, you just don't want me to know. But it's okay. Moving forward, I will continue to try to reach out to members of this council, and I'll try to, start to gel. And I hope we could do that because, it's not, I went to a conference at church, and they talked about a soulless soul and making it about I, and it touched me very much this weekend. And I reflected, maybe some of the things that I was doing was soulless. And so moving forward, I would just hope that, I could continue to work with you all and it could be reciprocated back to me. And that, I guess, it's my hope. I do want to be engaged in this process. That's why I ran for council. And I will hope that we could, put the pettiness aside and, put the pettiness of who has future ambitions and work for the residents of Bloomfield. Like you said, the youth, seniors in our neighborhoods are struggling, and I hope to be able to contribute to a solution. Thank you.
Councilor Goff?
Thank you. I guess two things, and I'll try to be relatively brief. First of all, I too want to thank the residents who came out tonight, the residents who came out at the budget hearing to talk not only about the budget, but the tax situation. I want to thank the residents who came out at our March 26th meeting. All of the people who are speaking out. It may not seem like it, but this is what democracy and community participation is about. It's not about everyone. It's not about everyone agreeing all the time. It's about talking about our differences or talking about things that are being done incorrectly and taking action on them. So I want to thank everyone on that, and I think you've gotten, as Councilor Merritt said, I think you have a very good indication tonight of the sense of the council, and be aware that we are working on these problems. The other thing I want to mention, and I'm very excited about the community solar plan. I think that's a great thing. I'm glad Bloomfield will be first. Several of us have been involved with this in other facets on the CEC from sort of day one. I do, however, want to point out one thing about the whole process, and tomorrow night, this will sort of relate to one of the topics on the agenda for tomorrow night. We also had parents come here tonight talking about the school system, and in particular, the the feeling that there were not enough resources devoted to actual teaching, to the number of teachers in the classroom and so forth. We've heard that before. We certainly are giving it credence and want to do what we can on that, even though that's the prerogative of the Board of Education. But I do think, as happy as I am with this solar project, I also think there is something sort of fundamentally wrong that we have officials of our school system working on renewable energy and facilities management that should benefit does benefit the entire town. I think this has to be reorganized a bit. I think it's important that we ultimately have a integrated facilities management and integrated energy policy. And I think what we're really going for here, and one of the things that we're really helping to achieve, is sustainability for the town of Bloomfield. And one of the things on the agenda for tomorrow, Councilor Mann's land use meeting tomorrow night, is talking about the Sustainable Connecticut program, which will entail, if we go forward with that, having a sustainability officer. Well, I think that is really where this program should begin, not in the bowels of the Board of Education. And that's not to say anything. I give Mr. Casper, Mr. Guzman, I give them great credit for pushing this through. So it's not a reflection of them, it's a reflection of we need to rethink how all this goes together. Thank you.
Councilor Di Lorenzo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilor. The microphone problems, technical difficulties. Okay, so I just want to add that I think you've already heard it from Councilor Merritt, Councilor Goff, Councilor Mann, Deputy Mayor, the Mayor. I feel the same way with regard to the taxation of our charitable organizations and churches, namely, specifically, the First Cathedral and also the Congregational Church and the nursery school there, or the child school there. So I think we will do the right thing, and I think we can look forward to the mayor's comments and look forward to that news in the short time frame. The other comments I wanted to make is regarding the signage. Okay, and I'm sorry Maureen isn't here. She gave some really good comments, but I do want to say to please be patient with us. We've worked on these signs for quite a while, and I think the goal has been that the signs would be consistent throughout the town. They would all look the same. They have the same design. Yes, they will be of different sizes, but the whole goal was to provide information to the town and wayfinding so that perhaps this particular sign is too big for its location. Maybe these signs would be better served, a purpose better served at the entrance to the town, like on Cottage Grove Road, somewhere like that, and not necessarily in a neighborhood. So maybe we could look into that, I don't know. But I think if you just be patient and give us some time, I think the signs maybe will grow on you, maybe they won't, I don't know. But I think, again, the goal was that the signs would provide to the community the information about what we have in the town, wayfinding for residents so you can know where to get to our parks, where to get to our facilities, where to get to other buildings within the town, such as the Prosser or the Health and Human Services facility. So I think the signs are a good thing. Maybe some of the old signs need to come down so that we're not just a land covered with signs. I'm sure that that's part of the plan, to eventually do what's needed with the signs. So that's my thoughts on that. The other thing, our town manager already mentioned it, but the Philly Park, I'm sure everyone is seeing a lot of the progress going on at Philly Park. It's starting to, it's looking a mess right now, but I'm sure it will start to become what it's supposed to be at the end of this phase. But I would recommend that everybody, if possible, to please go out to the phillypark.org website and think about purchasing a stone or a brick for the walkway. I think you can have as many. You can put whatever saying you want on there. You might want to have it in someone's memory. You might want to have it dedicated to someone. You might just want your name on there. But I think if everybody could just do that, it would be a nice thing for the community, and they will all be there for everybody to see, and they will be there for a long time. So I did want to mention that. The last thing I want to mention is just a reminder to us on the council that when we make a motion for something that's on our agenda, we need to read the motion into the record. We, similarly as Councilor Mann did it for the solar panels, we did not read the language on the motion word for word for two of the other items. So just as a reminder, we need to be better followers of the procedure when it comes to the motions, and perhaps our clerk can make sure that we read the motion into the record. So that's just a reminder. And I look forward to the Mayor's Ball. I look forward to the Celebrate Bloomfield. And the Memorial Day Parade.
Yes.
And the road race and the memorial at the cemetery. There's a couple of other things, but I believe the parade kicks off at 11:30, and we will meet on the town green on this side, because the other side is in a little bit of a mess, so I'm a little disappointed about that. But I think at noon we'll have our presentation and laying of the wreaths for those we lost in the wars. All right, well, I think that concludes my comments, and thank you. I'm looking forward to a great summer.
Councilor Mann.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's always difficult unless everybody takes some of your material, but that's okay. I want to pick up on some of the positive things that Councilman DiLorenzo started to talk about. There are a lot of exciting things going on in town, if you're not aware. Town manager mentioned the groundbreaking for the Human Services facilities tomorrow. We have the two projects that Councilman DiLorenzo just mentioned. Last Thursday, I attended a meeting of the Chamber of Commerce, Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, their annual meeting. It was one of the most positive meetings I've been to in a while, because there was a lot of discussion about businesses interested in moving into Bloomfield, and members in the Chamber of Commerce who have grown up in the town are now business active in this community. And also, the Chamber of Commerce is actually moving back to Bloomfield, because it had been administered by the Bristol Chamber of Commerce for the last couple of years. And because of all the activity, they've decided now to come back and make a more visual presence in Bloomfield. So in addition to that, I attended an opening of the Nature's Grocer, a new business in the mall over here next to the Dunkin' Donuts. It's a health food facility, bakery, baked goods and food, lunch. And it's exciting, the enthusiasm of these new young entrepreneurs who are moving into our town. They're very much in belief that this is the place they want to be, and they're making a go of it, and we want to support them. So I just also want to mention that we're very close to locking in one of our campaign promises, which was to develop a design review board to analyze proposals that are coming into the town center, hopefully beyond that to other parts of town, other business parts of the town, to make sure that we, the people, determine what our future of our town looks like and not leave it up to individual developers and their architects. And finally, I want to put a word of remembrance out to former Lieutenant Governor Eunice Quirk. She was on council when I was a planner in Hartford, and I learned a lot from her, mostly about her demeanor and about how to move forward through this process of government and maintain a semblance of humanity and softness. And I owe her great respect. So I wanted to mention her name, and I think that's all for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to start off by giving out big raves. I want to start off by giving a big rave to the town staff for all their time and effort that they have put into the budget process. They've been very helpful. They've been very supportive, Phil. I also want to congratulate all the students within Bloomfield who are in college, who are graduated and moving on to the workforce. I want to congratulate all the young kids within the elementary schools who are moving on to another grade, and the high school students who are going to be graduating pretty soon. Thank you to the residents for your continued support to this council. With your support gives us energy to continue to fight for the residents of this town, to make our town a better place. And the only way we can do that is collectively with town staff, town resident, and the council working together in a cohesive manner to accomplish these goals. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. So it's my turn. And Bill always say, you're in a fishbowl, right? And so with that comes a lot of things. But I'd like for my fishbowl to be clean. So just a couple of things. When I stated about the budget and that we had 2 abstentions from the budget on last Monday, once the town manager presents us his budget and we, the council, get information and we figure out what we're going to do with the budget, it becomes a town's budget. Now, there's some things in the budget that I didn't like, that I wanted to see, some things in the budget that I wanted to cut, that we collectively thought should have been cut. And then after getting input from the town manager, shedding some light on some things, we let some things go. This is almost a $90 million budget.
80, almost 90 million, yeah.
Almost $90 million. Okay. And I can say that we all sitting here did not get everything that we wanted. All the cuts that we thought should have been made wasn't made. But we believe it's a fiscally responsible budget for our town. Now, Councilor McCleary is correct. He was not here the last meeting to vote the budget forward. But everyone else on the dais was here. So I believe at some point in time, if there was any question or concern about that budget that was presented on the 7th, we should have had a discussion at that time. The signs that are in question, these signs have been in the process for 3 to 4 years. What does that mean? It does not affect our budget. There are signs in our budget that we have stated we would like to see the prospectus. We would like to get some height and width and depth and what it's going to look like before those signs are constructed and put up. Those stipulations were made. Now, I believe that the entire Bloomfield should know. If you don't know, you're about to know, I am an ordained minister. My home church is the Rehoboth Church of God. My husband and I pastor in Hartford. There is no way that I would sit here in good conscience and harm true nonprofits and or churches. No way. However, the best thing that I can do is work for the best interest of our town. And stopping that budget or abstaining from the budget would not have done that for our town. However, the fact that this council is working to make sure that our nonprofits, our churches aren't harmed, that's what we're supposed to do. And that's what we are doing. When I say the leadership of the council, we were all elected to the Bloomfield Town Council. And I am honored to serve the residents of this town because that's what I'm doing, serving. I'm not going to give you all a sermon, but I can exegete that text. That's what we were created to do, serve. However, on the night of our election, there was another election taken, and I was elected the mayor of the council. Deputy Mayor Curtin was elected the deputy mayor of the council. That means this council have leadership. So if we're going to go into a meeting, it's not the entire council that's going to go into that meeting. It might be the council leadership. So when we met with the Congregational Church, they requested to meet with the mayor and the deputy mayor. When we met with our farm, they requested to meet with the mayor and the deputy mayor. Every organization have leadership. The strength of this council is not in the mayor. The strength of this council is not in the deputy mayor. The strength of this council is the unity of this council. Now, being united doesn't always mean that we get what we want individually. Being united doesn't mean that we will always see eye to eye. Being united means that we are committed to do what we believe is in the best interest of our neighbors who elected us to be the policymakers for this town. And I believe that's what most of us have been trying to do for these few months. Now, I take offense when it's insinuated that people are being deliberately left out. As Democrats, I am not obligated to post the fact that we have caucuses. What's a caucus? A caucus is a meeting of a party to discuss agenda items before town council. So every weekend before a town council meeting is a caucus. It's on the record. That's why I have it posted. So, once again, I take offense to the insinuation that anyone is being left out. I am on record, and I hope that I'm being very clear. The strength of the Bloomfield Town Council is not in the mayor. The strength of the Bloomfield Town Council is not in the deputy mayor. The strength of the Bloomfield Town Council is in the unity of its members. I thank the town manager for allowing me to bring ideas on behalf of this council that will benefit our young people, our adults, and our seniors. It's not on my behalf when I speak. I speak on behalf of the council and the town. Yes, there will be a mayor's fundraising ball. Once again, it's the title. It's the mayor's ball, but it's actually the town's ball. This event is for the town, by the town, that will benefit the town. And I'm so very sorry that I took so long in this soliloquy, but I think it was needed at this particular time. Thank you for your indulgence. And at this time, we will move into executive session where we'll be discussing concerning pending claims and litigations. Can I have a motion on the floor? Is there a second? I'm sorry, we'll be meeting with the town manager and the town attorney.
And the
assistant town manager.
So move.
Thank you. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your time.